Hi. There's a certain kind of silence that fills a house when someone's sick. It's soft, padded, like the air itself is trying not to disturb them. That's what I expected when I turned the key and stepped into our place that Tuesday evening. Just silence. The kind with tissues crumpled on the nightstand, maybe a glass of half-drunk orange juice by the bed. Something fragile, still. But before that moment, before the silence, before the knock, there was the lie. I didn't see it then, not clearly, not all at once. I only felt it, like a vague chill brushing across the back of my neck. The little inconsistencies that hadn't added up over the past few weeks. The cough that came and went. The voice messages that always sounded a little too rehearsed. The kind of tired that made her avoid video calls, but not, apparently, Instagram posts from inside some cafe I didn't recognize. Her name was Haley. We'd been married 6 years. Not a perfect 6, but a devoted, intertwined, memorized kind of 6. The kind where you stop keeping track of whose turn it is to buy groceries because it doesn't feel like tallying anymore. Just routine. Familiar. Solid. She texted me around noon that day. Babe, I feel awful. I think I need to just sleep it off tonight. Don't come by. I don't want you catching whatever this is. I love you. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Not because it was suspicious, at face value. It wasn't. But because something about the way she signed it off felt efficient. Like a line break in a corporate memo. Like she was closing a tab in her head. I called, just to hear her voice. Straight to voicemail. Now, I'm not the overbearing type. I wasn't the guy who showed up unannounced or tracked her location. But that day, I found myself stirring chicken noodle soup from scratch after work, sliding it into a thermos, and driving to her apartment anyway. It was cold out. First frost of the season kind of cold. And I told myself I just wanted to make sure she was okay. That's all. I didn't tell her I was coming. I didn't text from the driveway. I walked up the stairs like a man carrying an apology, quietly, with care. I remember noticing the light under her door. Warm, steady. I stood there for a second, just listening. No cough. No TV. Just the low hum of something alive. Then I knocked. Twice. Light. Like I didn't want to wake her if she was asleep. There was no answer. I should have left it there. Should have walked away. But my fingers were already moving, slipping the key into the lock. She'd given it to me 8 months ago, after we'd argued about trust. Said, if you're going to love someone, you should be able to walk through their door without knocking. That memory burned a little as I turned the knob. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside. The soup was warm in my hand. My heart. Less so. I called out, softly, just in case. Haley? It's me. The lights were on in the kitchen. Her shoes, heels, were by the mat, not the sneakers she usually wore when she wasn't feeling well. There was a jacket I didn't recognize draped over the back of the chair. Men's. Dark green canvas. Too big for her. My mind scrambled for explanations. A neighbor borrowing sugar. Her brother in town. A package delivery mix-up. But the air felt wrong. Tense. Like I'd walked in on a conversation that had just gone quiet. Then I heard it. A laugh. Not hers. Deeper, masculine, and close. Muffled, but unmistakable. From the bedroom. I didn't move for a second. I just stood there, the thermos suddenly heavy in my hand. I could feel my pulse in my neck, in my palms, in my teeth. I don't remember walking down the hall. I just remember reaching the door. Her bedroom door. Our bedroom, once. It was cracked open just enough to see inside. They weren't doing anything graphic. No twisted sheets or flung clothes. No movie scene chaos. Just her, sitting on the edge of the bed in a silk robe, head tilted back, laughing at something he'd said. He was standing near the window, shirtless, holding a glass of wine, like he belonged there. Like this wasn't the first time. She turned toward him, not knowing I was watching. She smiled. I'd seen that smile before, at our wedding, in the mirror while she tried on dresses, in the hospital waiting room when my niece was born. It wasn't fake. That smile had always been real. Until now. Until I saw her give it to him. My breath caught in my throat. I took a step back. The wood floor creaked. She froze. Turned toward the door. Her face drained of color in less than a second. Eli, she said, like she'd seen a ghost. I didn't say a word. I just held up the thermos. You said you were sick, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I brought soup. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. He stepped forward, trying to cover his chest with a pillow, an instinct that was almost laughable if I hadn't felt like I was dying from the inside out. I didn't expect you to come, she said. Still seated. Still in that robe I bought her for our anniversary last year. I nodded. Just once. I know, I said. You never do. And then I left. I didn't slam the door. Didn't yell. Didn't break the thermos. I just walked back down the hallway, past the jacket, past the untouched kitchen, and out into the cold. She never followed. And I didn't look back. I don't remember driving home. I must have taken the long way. Maybe because I wasn't ready to face the apartment, or maybe because I needed the night air to stitch the edges of me back together. Either way, when I parked, the soup was still warm. I left it on the passenger seat and sat there a while, listening to the tick of the engine cooling off. There's a moment, after the shock fades but before the anger arrives, that feels hollow. That's where I lived for the next few days. I didn't confront her. Didn't call. Didn't send some dramatic text or ask questions I didn't want the answers to. I just went quiet. And in that quiet, I noticed everything. How often she didn't text me. How none of her friends reached out, even though they'd all been warm with me for years. How my toothbrush at her place was gone when I came back 2 days later to pick up my things. She left a note on the counter. Eli, I'm sorry. It's not what you think. I never meant for it to be like this. I folded it without reading the rest. I knew how it ended. They always end the same way. Apologies wrapped in denial. Excuses dipped in regret. I didn't cry. Not then. Not even when I opened the drawer where she used to keep the Polaroids of our trip to Portland. They were gone, too. It's strange what your mind clings to when your heart breaks. I kept thinking about the way her robe slipped slightly off her shoulder in that room. How natural it looked on her. Not hurried, not embarrassed, like she belonged in that moment, in that lie. A week passed. Then 2. She sent one more message. Can we talk? Please? I left it unread. Instead, I buried myself in work. Took on extra hours, sat in the office long after everyone left, because silence at my desk was easier than the silence in my chest. My assistant, Michelle, noticed. You look thinner, she said one afternoon, handing me a coffee. You okay? I smiled with my mouth, not my eyes. Just didn't sleep much. Which wasn't a lie. Most nights, I stared at the ceiling wondering how long it had been going on. When the switch flipped. When I stopped being the person she turned to, and he became the one she laughed with at night. I replayed it like a detective who couldn't let go of a cold case. The skipped dinners. The sudden gym membership. The phone always face down. I had seen the signs, I guess. I just didn't want them to mean what they clearly meant. And yet, even in all of it, I didn't hate her. I hated how easily I let myself believe we were still good. How much I still wanted to believe her cold was real. One night, 2 months later, I ran into her by accident. Of course, that's how these things happen. I was grabbing groceries late, something quick for dinner. And there she was in the frozen foods aisle, standing in front of the peas and corn like the universe wanted me to see her in the most ordinary setting possible. She looked smaller somehow, less put together. Her hair was pulled back in a way that made her look younger, and not in a way she'd want. She saw me before I could duck away. Eli, she said, stepping forward. Hey. I nodded. Didn't smile. You look good, she added, voice hesitant. I'm fine, I replied. An awkward silence bloomed between us, as if the shelves themselves were holding their breath. I didn't expect to see you, she said. I almost laughed. That line again. You never do. I replied, my voice flat. Her eyes welled up, just slightly. Can we talk? Just explain. I think I figured it out, I said. The robe. The wine. The look on your face when you saw me. That was the truth. She looked down. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Then how was it supposed to happen? I asked. I was going to bring you soup, kiss your forehead, and go home thinking I was still your husband. Was that the plan? Her lip trembled. It started months ago. I didn't plan it. I was lonely. You were always working. And he was just there. There it was. The quiet accusation behind the tears. You were busy. I found someone else. I felt something crack, gently. Not anger, more like release. A bone finally shifting back into place after being out of socket for too long. I didn't cheat on you, I said. I committed to you. I trusted you. I gave you space because I thought we were strong enough to survive distance. I didn't know you'd use that space to replace me. She took a shaky breath. I still care about you. I nodded. That's not the same as love. A beat. She tried to reach for my hand, but I stepped back. I have to go, I said. Dinner's waiting. What's for dinner? I looked down at the bag in my hand. Soup. Ironically. Something warm, I said. Then I turned and walked toward the checkout. She didn't follow. And again, I didn't look back. 3 months later, I moved. Packed up the last of my things from that little apartment with the creaky floors and the smell of her still in the hallway closet. A pair of her slippers were under the bed. I left them there. Like ghosts, some things don't follow you. Some things choose to stay. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not friends, not family. I just needed air. Not fresh air exactly, just new air. Something that hadn't passed through the lungs of betrayal. The new place was smaller. 1 bedroom. A quiet building with a cracked mailbox and a kind old woman across the hall who baked too much banana bread and insisted I take a loaf every time she caught me. I set up my life like a man learning how to live alone again. Bought new towels, new plates, different kind of soap, even. Stupid things, maybe, but they helped. Because every object that wasn't hers made the space a little more mine. And it was during one of those quiet nights, dishes still drying on the rack, that the final message came in. It was a picture. No caption. Just a photo of our old living room. The couch, the rug, the plant she loved that I never remembered to water. He was in the frame this time, holding her hand. They looked staged. Like a couple trying to convince the world, or themselves, that things were fine. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. Not anymore. She'd sent it to my old number. I had forgotten I still had the SIM card in the drawer. Maybe she wanted to show me what I missed. Or maybe she wanted me to feel what she had felt the night I stood in that doorway, thermos in hand. That stunned silence. That bottomless ache. But she never understood. I wasn't looking for a replacement. I was grieving a story that never finished the way I thought it would. The next morning, I blocked the number. Deleted the message. Lit a candle and let it burn through the evening. The scent of sandalwood curling up into the corners of the room like a soft eraser. Months passed. Seasons turned. One spring morning, I ran into Michelle, my old assistant, at a bookstore downtown. She looked different. Lighter somehow. We got coffee. She asked how I was doing. I said I was sleeping better. Then she did something no one else had done. She asked about the soup. Did you ever eat it? She said, smiling gently. I shook my head. Left it in the car overnight. Went bad. She nodded, and we both laughed. It felt good, the kind of laugh that doesn't come from joy but from recognition. Of what was. Of what survived. It's funny how soup became the symbol in my head. Something warm. Something offered. Something wasted. I loved her. I really did. And she loved me, too, I think. Just not enough. Not in the way I thought mattered. Love without honesty is like soup without heat. It looks like comfort, but it won't warm you. Eventually, I stopped keeping track of how long it had been since I saw her. Stopped checking her social media. Stopped wondering if he made her laugh the way I used to, or if he flinched when he saw a thermos. Life became quieter. And in that quiet, I started to hear myself again. One night, I made soup. From scratch. Not to deliver, not to prove something. Just for me. I sat by the window, bowl in hand, and took the first spoonful. It tasted like peace. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But peace. And that's something. That's enough. Bye-bye.